Hello and welcome to EMR Optimization for Cancer Screening, Accuro EMR. This video will show a demonstration of how to create and run a search for cervical cancer screening, and it's part of training module number 2. The objective of this training video is to help Accuro EMR users learn the basic steps for creating and performing a cancer screening search. Before we begin with the demonstration, I'd just like to mention that the search we will be creating is an illustrative example of a cancer screening search that you may wish to use in your practice. The criteria is adapted from Cancer Care Ontario's screening guidelines and recommendations. While we want to demonstrate the process involved in creating a search, the actual search criteria that you will use should be based on your own data standards and practices. Tip sheets are available with alternative suggestions for criteria that may be helpful to include in your cancer screening searches. With that out of the way, let's get started. Click the Menu button, select Reports, and then select Query Builder Alerts. The Alert Definitions window will open. Click the Add button to create a new query. In the Input window, enter a name for the new query, such as cervical screening, and click OK. The query is now available for editing. You will now begin to build out the criteria for your search. We will start by adding lines to find patients eligible for cervical screening based on sex and age. In the New Rule task pane, be sure Demographics is selected in the Category field. Scroll down to the bottom of the list and click to select Sex. In the Manage Rule task pane, select Female and click the Add Rule button. You can see that the criteria has been added to the Current Rules task pane. Now we will specify age ranges. Within the New Rule task pane, with the Demographics field still selected, scroll up and select Patient Age. In the Manage Rule task pane, select Between in the Age menu so that two values can be entered. Enter 21 in the top field and 70 in the bottom field and click Add Rule. Once again, the criteria is shown in the Current Rules task pane. Your age and sex criteria have now been added. The next step is to find patients who have not had a Pap test within the last 3 years. These patients are due for their next screening test. There are two potential areas where this information could be found: labs and documents. This demonstration will show you how to add criteria that will search both of these areas. In the New Rule task pane, select Labs in the Category drop-down list. Select Lab Result under Labs and click New. In the Manage Rule task pane, select Lab Type under the New drop-down list. Click the down arrow in the Lab Type Contains Free Text field and scroll through the list of tests provided by your lab feed. The term cervix culture is used in this example because it is one of the ways a lab feed codes for a Pap test. Because lab feeds can code Pap tests differently, it is up to you to know your lab's coding practices and to match them when entering terms into your EMR. If you receive results from multiple labs, you'll want to go back and account for different possible codings in your search criteria. In the Manage Rule task pane, click New and select Observation Date. Under Observation Date, in the last, enter 3 years. Click the box next to Doesn't Match so that a check mark appears and then click Add Rule. You've now added criteria that will exclude patients that have had a lab test result for a Pap test in the last 3 years. By excluding these patients from your search, your results will leave only those patients that have either never had a Pap test result received from the lab, or have had one, but it was far enough in the past that they are now due for their next test. Once again, the criteria is shown in the Current Rules task pane. Now we will search for a record of a Pap test in the Documents section. In the New Rule task pane, select Documents from the drop-down list, and then click Document. In the Manage Rule task pane, click New and select Type. In the Type Contains Free Text field, enter the name of the preventive care procedure that you are searching for. In this example, we will use Cyto. You need to know how your practice codes Pap test results when they are entered into your EMR. For your searches to yield the most accurate results, all EMR users must enter data the same way. Click New and select Reviewed Date. Under Reviewed Date in the last, enter 3 years. Click the box next to Doesn't Match so that a check mark appears and then click Add Rule. You've now added criteria that will exclude patients that have had a document entered for a Pap test in the last 3 years. Similar to the lab result example from before, by excluding these patients from your search results, you will only leave the patients who have either never had a document entered for a Pap test result or have had one but are due for their next test. Once again, the criteria is shown in the Current Rules task pane. You're now ready to run your report. Click Run Report. The Check for Alert Matches window will open. There are a few different options to work with in this window. In the Apply Against Task pane, selecting the All Patients option will allow you to search all the patients in the EMR. Choosing the Selected Providers Patients option will allow you to select a specific provider and run the search only on that provider's patients. In the Fields to Display task pane, you can right-click on any of the options listed under Fields to Display and choose to include/exclude fields in the search results. You can set the default fields by clicking on the Options button in the Alert Definitions window. In the Match Types to View task pane, you can select options that will help you manage a global task that was assigned to patients through this search. We'll talk more about tasks in Module 3. When you have made all your selections, click Run to view the results of your search. The Alert Matches window will appear displaying your search results. From here you have a few choices. You can click the down arrow on the Select Action drop-down list and choose one of the options provided. You can print your results, or you can export your search results. Before you select any of these options, you'll want to ensure that a clinician has validated the patients on the list. The actions will only be applied to the patients who are highlighted in the search results. If you want to select all the patients on the list, press and hold the Control key and press the A key. If you only want to select specific patients in the list, press and hold the Control key while clicking on the patients. And that brings us to the end of training module number 2. Once again, please be aware that additional information is available in the tip sheets. Our next topic is on using tasks for cancer screening. Thanks very much for watching.